A tea bag costs less than 4 cents. Boil 15 of them in a liter of water. Let it sit overnight, and you've made something that can stop rust dead in its tracks, permanently, without sanding a single surface down to bare metal. That sounds like a stretch until you look at the actual chemistry. And once you do, you'll wonder why anyone still buys a $50 can of rust converter from the hardware store. Here's the problem most of us run into. Rust shows up on a gate hinge, a toolbox, a car fender, an old wrench, and the fix we're sold is always the same. Grind it off or paint over it with a converter that promises to lock in the damage. Grinding takes forever and never gets into the pits and seams. And the bottled converters, if you've ever used one, tend to look great for about a year. Glossy black, job done, until the coating cracks along a stress line and you find the rust blooming right back up underneath, sometimes worse than before. You paid for a fix, but what you actually bought was a delay. The reason for that isn't a mystery or a scandal, it's just chemistry and cost. Most commercial converters are built around a diluted acid, often the exact compound we're about to talk about, suspended in a plastic or epoxy binder, so it dries into a hard shell fast, because a fast-drying product sells better on a shelf. That binder seals the surface, but it also seals in whatever moisture was already trapped in the metal's pores. Temperature swings later, that moisture reactivates the untouched rust hiding underneath, and the shell just traps the problem instead of solving it. It's less a conspiracy and more a shelf life and margins decision, the same way a lot of consumer products are built for good enough, then repurchase, rather than solved forever. There's an older, cruder version of this same reaction that doesn't rely on plastic at all, and it goes back much further than modern chemistry labs. Roman legions marching through the wet, freezing provinces of Britain and Gaul were covered head to toe in iron, segmented plate armor, chainmail, weapons, sitting in some of the most corrosive climates in the empire for months at a stretch. Metal that should have seized up and crumbled within a season instead shows up in the archaeological record in remarkably intact condition. Historians and conservators studying these artifacts have long pointed to plant-based tannins from oak bark, galls, and other tannin-rich sources as part of what preserved iron surfaces in the ancient and early modern world, used in various forms as protective treatments well before anyone understood the underlying chemistry. Nobody was writing chemical equations. They just knew that soaking or treating iron with the right bitter plant extract kept it from falling apart, and they passed that knowledge down as craft, not science. The why behind that trick turns out to be genuinely elegant once you break it down. Rust, iron oxide, isn't really a static, dead thing sitting on your metal. Refined steel is iron forced into an artificially high energy state through smelting, and the moment it meets oxygen and moisture, it's chemically restless, constantly trying to shed electrons and slide back toward a more stable, naturally occurring form. That's what oxidation actually is. Iron looking for an exit. Tannic acid, the compound that gives strong black tea its bitterness and that dark color, happens to be extremely good at reacting with iron. When it meets active rust, it doesn't just sit on top of it. It bonds directly with the iron oxide molecules and converts them into a new compound called ferric tannate. Think of it less like painting over a stain and more like a controlled chemical handshake. The unstable rust gets pulled into a completely different, much more stable molecular structure. Ferric tannate is dense, dark, essentially inert, and, critically, it doesn't want to react with oxygen or water again. You're not covering the rust. You're converting it, at a molecular level, into armor. This is genuinely the same chemistry sold in premium rust converter bottles, just without the markup, the plastic binder, and the eventual cracking. Manufacturers aren't hiding this. It shows up in ingredient lists for anyone who cares to check. But there's little incentive to advertise, you can basically do this yourself with a grocery store staple, because that's not a repeat purchase business model. It's simply more profitable to sell a proprietary blend in a can than to tell people to steep tea bags. Restorers who work on old farm equipment and industrial iron have used exactly this trick for years, quietly, because it's cheap and it works on large surfaces where buying gallons of commercial converter would be absurd. A tractor chassis or a cast iron gate doesn't care whether the tannic acid came from a $40 bottle or a grocery store tea aisle. The molecule reacting with the rust is functionally the same either way. So here's how you actually do it. Take roughly 15 standard black tea bags. The cheapest generic ones work fine, you don't need anything fancy, and add them to 1 liter of water that's just been brought to a rolling boil. You want it heavily oversaturated, much stronger than anything you'd drink. Take it off the heat, cover the container, and let it steep for a long time, somewhere in the range of 12 to 24 hours, not the 5 minutes you'd use for a cup of tea. You're pulling the maximum concentration of tannins out of the leaves, and by the end, it should look less like tea and more like a thick, dark, almost syrupy liquid. Before applying it, knock off any loose, flaking rust with a wire brush. You're not trying to strip the surface bare. Just clear away debris that isn't structurally attached. Then brush the concentrated liquid directly onto the rusted area. Within minutes, you should see the color shift, orange and red darkening toward a deep blue-black as the reaction takes hold. For heavier rust, apply a second or third coat over the following day, letting each layer dry before the next. Once it's done reacting, the surface will be hard, dark, and considerably more resistant to fresh oxidation. You can leave that finish as is for a rugged, worn look, or paint straight over it, since the converted layer actually makes a solid primer base. A few honest caveats, because this isn't magic. This method is a heavy-duty fix for structural iron, tool surfaces, gates, chassis work, the kind of rust where a slightly rough blackened finish is acceptable or even desirable. It is not something you want anywhere near precision mechanisms, tight tolerances, or delicate moving parts, since even a microscopic layer of converted rust can throw off a fit that was machined to fractions of a millimeter. It also won't reverse structural metal loss if rust has already eaten through the material. No chemical treatment brings that mass back. And permanent is doing a lot of work in most marketing. Ferric tannate is highly resistant to further oxidation, not indestructible for eternity, especially if the surface takes fresh mechanical damage down the road. Treat it as a genuinely strong, long-lasting fix, not an unbreakable spell. What this really comes down to is a habit worth building generally. The expensive version of a fix and the effective version of a fix are not always the same product. And it's worth asking, every so often, whether the $4 box on the bottom shelf might be doing exactly what the $50 can claims to. Sometimes the honest answer is no. This time, the chemistry says otherwise. And that's worth knowing before you spend the money. This has been Secret Lab. Next time, we're going back to the trenches of the First World War, where soldiers reportedly used something as ordinary as a raw potato to clean rust off delicate rifle mechanisms without damaging a single micron of the metal underneath. And we'll break down exactly why oxalic acid makes that possible.